Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
It is a beautiful day, a beautiful Thursday. Glad you're hanging out with us this morning. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. It is a start to another NFL Thursday. We got a lot to get to with the Saints and Falcons and a huge game for Atlanta, which we will talk about. And we also have the recurring rant retribution, if you will, from Steelers safety Mike Mitchell. But you,
listen, this is becoming a big thing in football because there are a number of people who don't like the way football is going with the hitting, and there's a number of people who do understand it. I do wonder out there with football fans, where are you with this? Do you like seeing it trying to have less of the hits that we have seen in the past? Or do you want to see that more? Bucky tweets, I agree 1,000% with Mike Mitchell. Football is a tough sport. I don't care how much the NFL tries to make the game safer. You will never take injuries out of the NFL. It's almost certainly a certainty that you're going to get hurt playing football. Bucky, you're right. I mean, we said that 1,000 times. You are correct. But that doesn't mean you can't adjust to things. You adjust to situations as they arise. We are finding out more information, especially about head injuries in football, so you adjust to that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What happens is what B.J. David then says. He says it's getting more complicated. That's the thing. So we're adjusting, but the adjustment is becoming complicated, especially if you're a linebacker or someone in the secondary on where you can hit somebody. So I understand. And listen, I played in an era. I will not, the play I remember the most, listen, every play I tried to drive, just like my dad taught me, drive somebody, and I tried to teach my kids. You drive someone into the ground with a clean hit, and if they get up, then that's great. If they don't, that's part of the game that you accept. It sounds harsh, it sounds bad, but that's the way it was. I tried to hit everybody as hard as I could. There was a play where Emmitt Smith was running on a sideline. It was along the sideline, and I had a shot at him, and I was running full speed. And, I mean, I literally had time to think, I am going to try and knock him out of his uniform. I want to hit him that hard, whether it was in the shoulders, the chest, the head, didn't care. I was going to dive at him, go after him, and try and destroy him. Now, I hit him as hard as I possibly could, and it was like a boxing match where you hit someone with your best punch, and their head turns, and then they look at you, and you go, oh, God. That's what happened. I knocked him. I mean, he flew out of bounds.
Didn't quite work out the way you'd hoped?
Bounced right back up and ran into the huddle. I went, damn. But the bottom line was, that's the thought process that I had, and the thought process you have playing this game. But when you learn more things about it and you need to adjust for some of the safety issues, that has to happen. You can't just keep screaming out there and be bloodthirsty when you're saying, wait a minute, some of the results we're seeing now, we're seeing later, they're maybe tying together. We're learning more about that. So we have to adjust a little bit. I don't have a problem with that. But again, like we're both doing, Mike, we're flying at it from 30,000 feet now. We're no longer on the field in the bang-bang decision.
And I think that's the problem is we see this in a lot of things. I mean, we saw this in a very different realm of what that Players Coalition dealt with and what the NFL deals with the CBA every year. You always talk about representing the interest of the bulk of your players. For the meat of the bell curve of players, guys don't have the luxury of worrying about that. Mike Mitchell said that he changed his family's life forever and their legacy with the amount of money he's made in football. Yep. And so most guys can only see that and really only have that to worry about is how can I grab as much cash as I can in this process? So all they see is you lightening their wallet for something they look at and wonder, and that's why people bring up this point is football is always going to be violent, is they're wondering, is this in vain? Like, as much as the NFL is doing this in an effort to try and make it look like they're about player safety and spinning this forward, most guys are asking themselves, can you? Or is this just them lightening their wallets so they can spin this for PR? Because when you look at the fans and the people that are most outraged by this, I wonder this a lot as someone who certainly was a former player, so look at it from a different perspective, but also now in the media. The media is about as much closer to the players than the fans. They work with these guys, they meet them in different settings, they talk to them and learn about them as people. So I think the media is a little more conditioned. to see the humanity in these guys and feel slighted when you see that humanity compromised by the violence of this game. But fans are detached even another level from that. And so to expect them to care in the same way is probably a little bit misguided in most cases. And so you're wondering who you're trying to please. Are you trying to please a fan base that may still be just as bloodthirsty, or a media who is finally coming around to seeing this happen to people they consider friends in a lot of cases?
Well, look, that is absolutely the case, because football is different than almost any other sport, because you wouldn't know half the football players if you saw them on the street.
Right.
Because you're wearing a helmet. You're wearing, a lot of times, a visor over your face. Let's be honest, as a fan, you root for laundry. Okay, you see these guys not as people, you see them as a widget. You see them as a product. And that goes into the draft, and that's why, from my perspective, when we do the draft, we try and humanize these kids. They're kids, okay? They're not a little block that you put into this hole that makes everything around it sort of work. We see them completely differently because we relate to them when we talk to them when they have that mask off and we have that uniform away. You know, LeBron's out there in shorts. Everybody knows who he is. You know, baseball players the same way. There's a difference in football because you see them not so much because of the nature of the sport, but also because of what they wear. They don't seem that personable to you on a lot of levels.
And then all of a sudden you see Ryan Shazier down on the field, and they remind you that he's a new father and he's got a family and all of these things that just punch you right in the gut. So when those moments come, they are swift and they are devastating.
They absolutely are. And by the way, there was some good news, we believe, yesterday with Ryan Shazier. They were able to move him from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh. And, you know, you have to believe that there had to be some sort of progress.
Absolutely, to be able to do that.
For able to move him. So we'll hopefully have more updates on Ryan Shazier throughout the week, or maybe even later on today. We don't know. But the fact that he was able to move from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh can be perceived as somewhat of a positive sign. Golic and Wingo, presented by Amazon. Amazon has everything you need for the perfect holiday get-together, from whining to dining to reclining together afterwards. Visit Amazon today. Now, all of this, sort of what we're talking about, was fueled by the Mike Mitchell rant, which we talked a little bit earlier in the last hour about how football is never going to change. But to some of the frustrations you guys were talking about, Mike Mitchell went on talking about, hey, look, just tell me what I can and can't do and be consistent with it, because that's the problem I have now.
You know, I signed up to play full-speed contact football, and we're not doing that. I feel like I got to ask a guy, hey, are you ready for me to hit you right now before I hit you? And that's crazy. I'm going to mess around and get hurt trying to protect an offensive player because he's running an over route. Your quarterback shouldn't have threw that ball messed up. That happened 2 years ago. I'm not joking at all. Andy Dalton threw a ball to Tyler Eifert 2 years ago. Tyler Eifert had to dive for it. I was aiming for his gut. But if he don't dive, he don't get in the head. That's $50,000 out of my pocket, though, because Andy throws a bad ball. And at first you're taking our money, but now, you know, I got like Matt Hasselbeck calling me a dirty player and trying my character, and we've never met before. We got to do better. I said it yesterday. We got to do better as players when we sign the next CBA. We got to get better leadership as who's running the league, because obviously everybody from fans, owners, players are all disappointed in Roger Goodell. We just got to do better. We can't have a guy where you just hand out discipline on how you see fit. There needs to be a set guideline of how we do what we do. But like I said, man, it's Steelers versus the world.
Well, there's a lot to get into there, and there's a lot that I think is very valid in what he's saying there. I don't know how anybody plays safety or linebacker anymore with the shrinking of the strike zone. And look, he's right. I mean, we were just watching that replay of that thing 2 years ago on TV. If that's a better throw, I mean, he's right with the Andy Dalton thing. If that's a better throw, then maybe Tyler Eifert doesn't get hurt there, and that changes the dynamic of what a player can do and how he's trying to stop him.
It does. And listen, Tyler Eifert's a guy you and Jake played with, and we all know very well. And you're right, that pass hits him in stride. That hit gets him in the midsection, and not in the head. But the DB is responsible for it, and people will say, well, you can't dive. Well, I mean, when you're a few yards away and you have to make a play, diving sometimes is a quicker way to get there, and putting your shoulder out or your head out. It's such bang-bang plays. I understand his frustration. I absolutely understand his frustration. And I don't know where the answer is going to be, because there's, with the talk of now even more rules, the talk of possibly the targeting. Now it's not only lightening your wallet, but there's always a threat of lightening your wallet and being suspended. Now there could be the threat of being tossed out of that game itself if they go through with this targeting rule. So I understand his frustration. I don't know, he brought up the CBA. I don't know where that's going to go, because quite honestly, Mike Mitchell is 30 years old. that CBA isn't even going to be in play for another 3 years. He may not even be in the league. There's going to be a number of guys that are complaining right now, and I understand their complaints, that aren't going to be in the league. So you're talking about who then is. It's the younger guys. It's guys who aren't even in the league yet. Guys who get in the league this coming draft are going to be in the league 3 years when this comes into play. So it's a different set of circumstances of guys that want to get theirs now before they're done, as opposed to, do we fight for the next guy that's coming up?
And that's why I'd be more interested in the opinion of a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster, whose suspension was upheld, who's going to sit one game for playing a brand of football that would have been okay a while ago. How does he view the way that this is all going down? Because I think just getting into a glimpse of the mentality of the guys that are coming up and going to be that next generation, we've made a huge deal out of how young he is. So he's a guy that probably will be around for the next CBA and probably will be someone who is very uniquely affected by that. What is the mentality of the guys that are coming in right now that have been victims of this system in the way that we've seen, the system that Mike Mitchell's lamenting right now?
Well, that's the thing, and I'm glad you brought that up, because Hines Ward is a celebrated Steeler, not only for his ability to throw the ball and catch the ball, for the hits that he put on players like Juju Smith-Schuster just got suspended for. And again, the rules have changed. I understand that. And you know, people have to understand that that's the new reality. Those peel back blocks, they don't want those anymore. But that was what made Hines Ward a legendary Steeler, those kind of plays. And to the point that Mike alluded to, Mike Mitchell, I got too many Mikes here. Mike Mitchell, the Steeler safety, and you, Mike Golic, and Mike Golic Jr. expounded on. Unfortunately for Mike, he's 30 years old. And he probably, in 3 years when the new CBA starts, I hope he's in the league.
Right.
But you know, how many safeties are playing 13 years in? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then it becomes, that's the battle that the players are never going to be able to win, because they won't have the longevity and the resources to hold out the way the owners can. It's billionaires versus millionaires. It's never a fair fight. It's never a fair fight.
That's the macro, and I get his micro frustration of, wait a minute, I'm playing for a while here. As you mentioned before, Mike, he said, I set my family up forever because of the money I made here, and now you're taking money away from me for I think is going to be a good tackle, and I got a guy changing his level, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait, what the hell am I supposed to do out here?
Right.
And you're taking my money. It is confusing, and unfortunately, there seem to be going to be even more, possibly more rules added when, to the point we've been making, maybe define them more with the games or how the discipline is going to be handed out, at least, because players always like, listen, we are itinerary life guys, right? Be here at this time, be here at that time. If you don't, this is what's going to happen. We want to know what's going to happen to me if I do this. Okay, at least now I know that. Now, can we get past the gray area of what I actually did to earn those games or that fine?
Right. Look, and we'll see what happens going forward. That's obviously going to be a discussion to continue, and this topic's not going to go anywhere because a lot of players are very frustrated about this. Well, again, Mike and Mike are here. Trey Wingo, Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN. You almost had to use the swear jar. Almost had to use the swear jar for the first time. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. But we move on because it's time for another edition of
Fill in the Blank with Golic and Wingo.
All right, fill in the blank, brought to you by Mahindra Tractors and Utility Vehicles. Mahindra USA, the world's #1 selling tractor. Okay, guys, you ready? Mm-hmm. Of the 4 10-2 teams, the one you're least confident in, Vikings, Eagles, Steelers, or Patriots, who is it?
Wow. That's a great question, because how do you lose confidence in a 10-2 team? So this is how I'm going to separate it, because I have confidence in all of them. I'll go to the quarterback. The least quarterback, and that would be Case Keenum right now. So, and I don't even want it to make it sound like a slight, but you're asking me to pick one. I'm going to pick the one of the quarterback, because Wentz is playing fantastic, and then you have Big Ben and Brady, so those are no-brainers.
I'd actually probably go with the Eagles on this one. I look at the Vikings top to bottom, probably most complete in every other facet. I think they've got a better defense, slightly better defense than the Steelers. And if you're going to take one of the two teams that's going to spread talent around, I'm going to trust the one that's got Tom Brady at quarterback and the Eagles model that we'll see. This is a big 2-game stretch for them. At L.A. this weekend against the Rams is going to tell us a lot about who this team is going down the stretch.
Yeah, you know, this may sound crazy, but I'm going to say the Steelers, and I'll tell you why. Because for them to go all the way, the team that they're going to have to beat is New England. And historically, they have not done a very good job of finding a way to beat New England in the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick era. And again, Week 15 game coming up is huge next week because that game will be in Pittsburgh between these two. I get it was in Pittsburgh last year, but it was early in the season, and Landry Jones was the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers in that game. So if they're ever going to beat them with all these guys healthy, this might be the time. But I haven't seen that from this Pittsburgh unit going up against the Patriots. Okay, we continue with fill in the blank. This is a good one. Jerry Jones' first words to Roger Goodell at next week's owners' meetings in Dallas will be?
Choose your words carefully. I have snipers on the roof.
Okay, all right.
I mean, in all honesty, I'm sure it'll be cordial. It sounded like at the most recent round of owners' meetings, there was a cordial nature to it because Jerry Jones sort of understood the road that this is going down. This is going to be a slow play from him. It's going to be calculated, and it's one that I think for Jerry Jones' ends is going to take place behind closed doors that don't involve Roger in the room.
It'll be one of those handshakes leading to that somewhat awkward hug, and the handshake will be the joke, you're buying, and then into the hug, it'll be whispered in his ear, I'm not done with you yet.
Yeah. Here's the thing I bet he won't say to him, you won.
No.
I don't know what he's going to say, but he's not going to say, hey, congratulations on winning this one.
Right.
Pretty sure that's not going to happen. Okay, Andy Reid didn't wait for anybody from the league to do this.
Right.
In a big division game coming up when they've got the Raiders, the Chiefs suspended their head coach. They suspended Marcus Peters for throwing a ref's flag. So the Chiefs doing the suspending of Marcus Peters for throwing a ref's flag is?
Very Herm Edwards-esque.
That's exactly right.
Where a coach not really caring about what the league's going to do, but taking care of responsibility of his own team. Marcus Peters, again, threw the flag and then walked off the field. And Andy Reid, I think, kind of covered for him in the presser after saying, well, Marcus thought he was thrown out of the game. That's why I left the field, when he was never thrown out of the game. He just left the field himself and then came back and said it was something about his socks. I have no idea. So that's, Andy Reid, saying, I'm going to take care of this. I'm not worrying about the league.
Yeah, I would say leadership in that vein, because this is not outcome dependent. He doesn't care that this is a huge division game for them while they're all knotted at the top. He doesn't care what the ramifications are going to be because he's got job security and he's got security in himself and his coaching style, and that's not something we've seen a ton of lately, whether it's what happened with the Giants, whether it's what happened in the college ranks at Tennessee. It's refreshing to see someone with the confidence and the ability to say, no, this is where I draw the line in the stand. You're going to live by my rules here, regardless of how it hurts us, even if I may disagree with it.
Yeah, I think it's admirable, because, look, they've lost 6 of their last 7 games. They started 5-0, and they're in dire situations now. They may not make the playoffs, but Andy Reid is making a statement on how he wants his players to behave, and we had Herm in here, and this has been a slow play with Marcus Peters over the last couple of years. Look, he's an exceptional player, but there have been some issues. And I think it finally came to a head when he thought he was ejected, came back out, tried to play without socks on for the latter part of that game with the Jets. And I think Andy's just saying, look, enough is enough, and I'm making a line in the sand, much in the way Herm did with Larry Johnson when he was in Kansas City and also with John Abraham.
Right, exactly.
When he was with New York.
Yep.
Okay, this is interesting. We got Chip Kelly, Willie Taggart, Dan Mullen, Jimbo Fisher, Scott Frost, Jeremy Pruitt now, we believe, finalizing the deal at Tennessee. The most successful new college football coaching hire will be?
I'm going to go with what the lifeblood of college sports is, and that's recruiting. And I'm going to give the edge to guys who have had success. That's Chip Kelly and that's Jimbo Fisher. They both have had success at the schools, Chip Kelly at Oregon, Jimbo Fisher, Florida State, of going into homes and getting some of the top athletes. So, and in their new places now, Texas A&M and UCLA, I still think they have the clout to walk into these
So you're making this a combo platter? Or are you
No. I've narrowed it down to those two, and then I'll probably lead more toward Chip Kelly. I think Chip Kelly is kind of the college coach type of player of today, running those offensive plays. Players know they can move on to the NFL from him, and he runs that quick, fun offense. I think players could gravitate to that.
I think they could. The problem I have with Chip Kelly, because the system is proven, it's in there, but it requires a quarterback, and they're losing maybe the top quarterback in the draft in Josh Rosen. Maybe not a Chip Kelly quarterback system kind of guy, but one of the best in the country, and that's hard to replace given the lack of talent on the rest of that team. I look at Willie Taggart. This is a Florida State team that had a lot of expectations coming into the season. It's going to get DeAndre Francois back healthy this coming season, and I think he's going to walk into a more talented situation in a conference that's more winnable than most of these and is primed for an early jump here.
I wonder if he'll leave in a year.
Probably.
That would be the issue with Willie. What's the expiration date on the milk carton, right?
Yeah.
Because it tends to go bad pretty quickly. What is he? He's coached only in one of the 4 games that is
bowl games.
Bowl games that his team has been eligible
last
for.
Few years, yeah.
I'm going to go with Dan Mullen, and I'll tell you why. Because Dan Mullen has made quarterbacks everywhere he's
he
been.
has.
I mean, look, Starkville, Mississippi is a hard place to find people to get to go to and win, and he did a great job there. He made Dak Prescott. He was part of Tim Tebow, and we talk about quarterback whisperer. He's going to have a lot of people.
Part of Alex
Florida.
Smith at Utah as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think Dan Mullen has a real good shot to be the most successful of all these.
He's got a nice freshman there, too, in Felipe Franks, who's coming off a season where he got some action in games, meaningful time that can absolutely benefit a kid in the offseason.
Okay, let's move to the baseball here. Rafael Palmeiro wants to make a comeback at the age of 53. So Raffy trying to make a comeback at the age of 53 is
aggressive. I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it. Well, I'll say that impossible. It's not happening. The oldest player I know is Julio Franco, who was 49 when he retired in 2007. Rafi's son is in the Orioles system right now. I think he's 22 years old. I would say impossible. I don't think there's any way he gets back to the majors and does anything.
I'd say it's trendy. Listen, guys beating back the clock is what's hot in sports right now. We got that Tom Brady and LeBron James pull up for a reason. Right now, it's because guys are trying to play longer. Who was it? Housel Wilson came out the other day and said he wanted to play into his mid-40s.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
53 next 10, 15 years is going to look like chump change.
I hope so. I mean, look, I'll say Minnie Minoso has took at bats, I think, in his 70s at one point, but a regular play, let's just say I think it's wishful thinking. Okay, I ran into Herschel Walker a few years ago doing something, and he said he believes he could still come back. I'm like, that's great for you, but there's zero chance.
Yeah, I mean, T.O. keeps talking about coming back.
Dad, you going to start the comeback trail?
I think
absolutely
it's
not.
possible that
man.
he could be a DH at 53. I think that's possible. But then what? You're just going to pull him after he gets to first base? I mean,
I would even question if he could do that.
You could be a nice second down specialist, Dad. Not even first down, not third down. Let's just go second
down.
I'm not even going to go there. But with Rafael Palmeiro, dream big. Dream big, kids.
There you go.
Don't let anybody limit you but you.
Nothing's impossible.
And it's never happening for
That's true. I'm only a year older than him. Maybe I should think about it.
Do it. Think about that. And let me know how that works out for you.
I'm 240, which means I'm at safety weight right now.
So how's your 40 time then we need to know?
Are you kidding me?
There it is.
And you have the money to pay the fines.
That's a good point.
There it is.
Hey, everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Moving through a Thursday on Golic and Wingo. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic here. Steven Jackson will join us in just a little minute to talk about some stuff going on in the NBA. Congratulations to him, by the way. Did you know this? He was named the best trash talker in the inaugural Big Three tournament.
I enjoyed watching that,
Yeah.
the 3-on-3 tournament. I dug it. Got interesting at times when one time Allen Iverson didn't show for a game, and then I do love this. So best trash talker in that. So obviously that's number one question to ask him. We'll get all the great NBA stuff from him, but I love a good, because I was a horrible trash talker. As I found trash talking, the further away from the ball you are, the better trash talker you are.
Right.
Rarely was it linemen. It was well outside the wide receivers, DBs, running backs, linebackers, and then moved into the linemen. We were all too concerned about getting air in our lungs rather than to. And my best line was basically 2 words, and it ended in you.
Yes.
I mean, that was my basically comeback to everything.
Hey, play to your strengths.
My brother Greg was a very good trash talker, and he would always try and give me lines before a game to use in the game, and I would either A, never remember them, or B, be too tired to use them. But that's a fine art. John Randall from the Vikings, he was fantastic. I just saw an interview with him where he was talking about his trash talking. He would actually read the bios of the players he was going against and get down into the family and the personal stuff and use that. not in a derogatory way, but
that's actually impressive.
He was.
I'm a big fan of research.
I was amazed, and that's a D lineman doing that. He never. I mean, I was on the sideline obviously when he was on the field, but as our guys would say, he never stopped talking. And by the way, it was really good.
Yeah. Look, when the stuff mic'd up from him on NFL Film,
it's fantastic.
It's just fantastic. Yeah. When Andrea Kramer used to work for us here, she once did a piece about John Randall's trash talking for Sunday Countdown, and she did it with Randall barking behind her the entire time.
Really?
It was amazing. It was really, really good. It was one of the most memorable things I can see.
It's something I'm convinced you're born with.
Yes.
You know what? You can't develop that. You either have the knack to just throw out that line at the right time and hit the right nerve, or you don't.
Well, what's the old Steve Martin line? Some people have a way with words. Other people not have way.
Yeah.
So
I'd be in that category.
That sums it up. And again, Stephen will join us in just a little bit. But one thing we didn't get to on the fill in the blank, which I think is interesting, Steve Spagnuolo is now the interim head coach for the New York Football Giants, and they've gone back to Eli Manning, which means that whole thing was for nothing. It was for absolutely nothing.
Isn't that? I mean,
210 streaks ended for nothing.
When you stop and think about it, I mean, how do you not just shake your head on what a waste, such a fantastic streak in a tough sport to be able to manage, and it was ruined over that ridiculous situation.
Again, it reminds me of the old Ricky Waters line when he went from the San Francisco 49ers and free agent to the Eagles, and I think they were getting blown out by Tampa Bay week 1. And there was a pass late in the game where Ricky sort of alligator-armed it.
Yes, he did. I remember.
People asked him about it after the game, and his line was, for who? For what?
Yeah.
And that makes me think about the Eli streak. This was ended for who? For what? Why? Why did this come to an end over this?
You know what? We all disagreed with the benching, but I think if it was for the rookie Davis Webb, we'd have had at least an inkling of understanding. Yeah. But Davis Webb was inactive. He isn't even in a good enough way to play in the games yet. Yet Eli was still benched for Geno Smith. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And now we go back to Eli with an interim head coach.
Okay, so we got an interim head coach, and Steve Spagnuolo is somewhat revered in New York, obviously for being the defensive coordinator when they won the 2007 or the Super Bowl 42 rather over the Patriots, ending the Patriots' chances at a perfect season. 19-1, not as good as 18-1, rather. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So the question then becomes: where should the Giants go? What should they be looking for in their new head coach?
You heard Will Cain, our own Will Cain, say thought Jim Harbaugh might be a candidate, or maybe he's just talking about would be a good candidate. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to stay at Michigan. I think he has more he feels he wants to do there.
Right.
But I do see him eventually going back to the NFL, but I don't think it's going to be right now. Spagnuolo may be the guy. Right. He's not only the interim now, but he's going to be trying to show that, hey, I can handle these guys and I can be the next head coach. Because it always comes down to, they tried it with the quarterback whisperer and Ben McAdoo.
Maybe that was Aaron Rodgers and not the quarterback whisperer.
Exactly. Do you now go to a former head coach who has the experience, or do you pick another, assistant coach?
We'll see how that plays out. Again, huge game for them with Eli Manning back under center this week for the Giants. See how the fans react to all of this at MetLife Stadium. All right, as promised, ESPN NBA analyst Steven Jackson is here, joining us in studio, giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. All right, Steven, we sort of put this Twitter poll out there to find out what people are more impressed with, what LeBron James is doing his 15th year in the NBA, or what Tom Brady is doing at the age of 40 and potentially an MVP candidate in the NFL. How are you as a player who has aged gracefully, I should point out, and looked great? How are you sort of dealing with what LeBron is doing year 15?
Well, when you talk about Brady and LeBron, the only thing that's a sound comes to my mind.
Yeah, a sound?
Yeah.
Which is?
What sound does a goat make?
Yeah, how about it, huh?
You know what I mean? They're both goats. They're both the greatest of all time. To me, I mean, not greatest of all time, but the greatest in the game right now. I think Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time in my mind. And just what they're doing, that's what dominant players do. LeBron gets better every year, and it's shocking because he's still athletic. Like, his athleticism hasn't dropped at all. And for Brady to still be able to dominate, make the decisions he's making and win games and be so dominant, it's a testament to how hard they work and how dedicated they are to the game.
But specifically to LeBron, as a guy who's played that game, and how many years did you play?
14.
Okay, so he's 15
I
years.
barely was dunking at 14.
Exactly.
14 years in.
He's 15 years in running. I mean, I get it. He went in, straight from high school, so that gives him a little bit of an advantage. But you're still putting that wear and tear on your body on both ends of the floor for 15 years now. Can you even relate to what he's being able to do physically?
I don't think anyone can. I don't think anyone can relate to what he's doing and how he's doing it. I think to be able to see it is a blessing for all of us. I played against him, so I knew how dominant he was when I played against him, how good he was. But to see 15 years in where he's getting better, actually, it's scary to see. And I know the guys in the league are terrified.
So for your sport, because I would talk about in football of my sport of what would be the most impressive thing about playing at an older age in basketball and LeBron specifically. What's the most impressive thing about what he's doing at his age?
Well, being able to still dominate. I mean, the game looks easier now. A lot of players go through their whole career and don't add stuff to their game. He added a 3-point shot now. He's shooting it lights out.
43%, I think.
But what I think made him the player he is now is he started posting up. As big as he is, a post up, 2 dribbles, he's at the basket, he's getting layups, and he's making guys better. I think posting up just changed his game.
So overall, we're get into more of on the court stuff, but we hear more about Tom Brady and the off the field and how guys take care of their body. Probably at the end of my career, which was in the mid 90s, 94, players just started knowing the supplements and what they would do for you that they would buy off the shelf and started to get smarter about that. Now guys are unreal with what they do. From the beginning, 14 years, so from the beginning to the end, how has that grown? Players' own knowledge of nutrition, of supplements, of how they take care of the body to where we are now where guys are worried about how much sleep they're getting at night along with everything else.
It's night and day. I think when I was playing, all you was worried about was making sure you get your leave in before the game. And after, to make sure you feel well. Now they got all kind of stuff, hyperbaric chambers. They got all kind of stuff they doing now for guys to get them ready to play. And they even cutting the games for guys to be healthy. So times have changed, but just like they said the same thing when we played back in the day, they didn't even have trainers. They barely had tape. They didn't have none of that stuff. So the game has definitely grown.
By the way, have you guys ever been in a hyperbaric chamber? You ever tried that?
I have not. I want to.
I tried it once.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. We were on vacation somewhere, and they had it at this hotel. I'm like, I'll give that thing. I'll try it. And then you get in there, and like, this won't work. And
you're out.
2 seconds later, you're out. I mean, you are out.
So you want a good nap,
I woke up, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing in the history of the world.
Yeah.
And I don't need any aches and pains, but it was awesome. Highly recommend
on the to-do list
because I was this won't work. I was out just like that.
Nice.
You can stick around for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Again, we continue here with Steven Jackson in studio. We talked about this a little bit before you joined us. You were the best trash talker in the inaugural Big Three. Did you feel like you had a lot of competition there this summer? Did you know you were walking in and taking that crown right away?
But I didn't have that much competition besides Kenyon Martin and Gary Payton with the trash talk, but I knew that as much trash as I was talking before the season started, I had to back it up, and I ended up leading it in scoring. So I talked a lot of trash, but I backed it up too.
Yeah. I said I'm one of those. I never could do it. My trash talk was 2 words, and it ended in you. That's all I could do.
Yeah, nice.
I have said you have to be born with that, right? I mean, you just have to have a knack for how to get under somebody's skin or to throw out a great line, right? You can't develop that, right?
You cannot teach that.
Yeah.
That has to be in you from your upbringing, and that just it's something about the chip on your shoulder that you have, and a lot of words come out then.
Well, listen, be who you are.
You got to
just be careful. We got the dump button ready, so just don't be too much of who you are right here. Okay, we tease this. I want to ask you about this, and then we'll move on to some other teams in the NBA. But LeBron is saying he's using NBA 2K18 to get ready for Isaiah Thomas coming back. How do you feel about the idea of LeBron maybe using the video game, seeing how him and Isaiah maybe can work together once he gets back and healthy?
Well, let me say this. I normally play Madden, but I've been playing this game he's talking about probably the last 2-3 months. And I put myself on the Warriors. I put myself on the Spurs, so I understand. To make it realistic, I understand what he's doing.
It does translate.
Yes,
you think,
because a lot of those players' games it's actual. They play the same way in real life.
Yeah.
And the stats are the same. They shoot the same. Their percentages are the same. So they made that game realistic. So I can see how he says that, but it is so far from realistic. Like actually playing an NBA game, there's no way he can compare it. But his imagination is good.
So let's put the imagination. Let's try to put it literally. What do you see? How the Cavs can change when Isaiah Thomas does get back on the floor? What changes with the rotation and how that team looks?
I don't think that the rotation is actually going to change. I think he's going to be in the starting position.
Sure.
But less pressure off LeBron. He's dominant right now. He's doing everything right now. Just imagine, taking the ball out of his hands for 4 or 5 minutes and he'll be even stronger the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game. And I think that's what Isaiah's going to come and take. Just take a little pressure off of him so he can be solid at the end.
Steven Jackson with us in studio, and if you're not watching on ESPN2 and just listening on ESPN Radio, the sweater game you're wearing is strong.
Oh, it is strong.
It's like a combination holiday, candy striper, red and white, multiple.
It's very nice.
Horizontal stripes. I mean, you really bring in the spirit, the holiday spirit.
Yeah.
So it's appreciated. Just know it's noted and appreciated. Okay, so we talked a lot about the Cavs and the amazing streak that they've been on, 13 straight. Does it matter for the Warriors at this point? I mean, they don't have Steph Curry for 2 weeks. They didn't have Draymond Green. Now, obviously, the Hornets aren't the best team out there, but they had no problem. Do you see anybody, can the Thunder, or not the Thunder, the Rockets rather, can the Rockets present a real challenge to them in the West at some point?
The Rockets are playing great. You know, they're playing real great. I think James is leading right now in MVP voting in my mind. But when KD plays like he played last night, he's arguably the best player in the world. You know, when he plays like he played last night, this is what people say, well, I don't know if LeBron's better than KD when he plays like he played last night. So, you know, along with Steph and Draymond and Clay, if KD plays like that, nobody can beat him.
How about in the East? You know, we were like, with Cleveland, and look at the Celtics, and now that's kind of switched a little bit, but the Celtics are still sitting there at 22-4. Have you been surprised losing Hayward the way they did that first game, and we were all like, okay, this is going to be even more a year away now? Have you been surprised at how well they're doing, and can they sustain?
I'm definitely surprised that they've won 18 out of their last 19. I'm definitely surprised that they have the record they have. I'm not surprised with the way Kyrie's playing. The only thing that changed with Kyrie was the city and the uniform. His game is the same, and he's under a great coach too. But those guys are playing well. But at the end of the day, I've said this at the beginning of the season, Cleveland has the best roster to me. From 1 to 15, they have all pros, guys that's been in the playoffs, guys that's veterans, guys that understand the game and can play roles and has played roles. I think Cleveland can play with Golden State definitely when it gets to the finals.
All right, Steven Jackson with us in studio. You know, look, you alluded to it a little bit when we were talking the other day away from the studio here. How the league has changed it. You know, they've lengthened the season so there's not as many back-to-back games. So you guys just went out there and played and did a lot of that stuff in your day. Now, according to Spotrac's injury tracker, players are on pace now to miss over 5,000 games this season due to injury. That would be about a 20% increase from last season. This despite all these things we're seeing by the way the league and the schedule is set up to avoid these things. Why do you think we're having these issues?
Because they're bonus babies. You know, they to me, they're getting a lot of money, and, you know, they're spoiled. You know, I remember Donnie Walsh said this back in the day. He called them bonus babies. That they're getting all this money, but a lot of guys ain't even earning it. They're not even working for it. So they're taking games back. You know, it's just they got to credit to LeBron. I give LeBron a lot of credit. We talk about Tom Brady off the court, but LeBron off the court. What he's done for the game is unbelievable. Everybody's getting paid a lot of money now. You know, they're thinking about this guy's health, cutting the games back. You know, I think for the most part, you know, what he's doing for the game is guys are more in control of their careers now. You know, guys can pick and choose where they want to go. I think that's all because of LeBron. You know, he's brought all that to the table. So the game it's changed. It's got a lot softer, and a lot of these guys, you know, don't even earn their money. To me, it's been given to them right now.
Is part of it? We only have about a minute left. Is part of it with these injuries? But it says 5,000, you know, missing games, more injuries. Is part of that because back in the day, people wouldn't say anything about they would just go play, where maybe today guys are bringing it up, and is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing?
Well, I mean, I think I would, if fans would appreciate me more if I go out there and play with a broken toe like I did for 2 years.
Right.
Then me say, okay, I might just get it fixed. The money's coming anyway. Yeah. You know, I love speaking to fans, and I hear this from fans, so I was one of the fan favorites. So play if you can. You know, you owe that to the game. And if you love the game, those things come naturally. Right. You don't need your coach to come tell you, well, if you can play, we really need you. You know what I'm saying? I'm used to having guys that want to play, that want to be out there for the teammates, and that's how the game should be.
Comes as natural as trash talk.
That's exactly right. The effort and the trash talking with Steven and the sweater wearing.
There you go.
All come naturally, and all three are very, very strong. Steven, thanks for being with us.
Anytime.
Appreciate it. We need to get those sweaters.
Except it's horizontal, not good for me.
Well, that would be bad. Coming up, we'll hear from the new leader in New York and then head to South Beach to talk to Stu Gatz. That's all next. Golic and Wingo rolling through it Thursday morning. Stay with us.